We're going to be bringing Michelle Cook, who is from the Dene Nation. I want to tell you a little bit about her. She's going to be joining us in conversation. She is the founder and director of Divest, Invest, Protect, DIP for short, and co-director of DIP's flagship program, Indigenous Women's Divestment Delegations, on intersectional, indigenous-led, international human rights campaign, pressuring banks, insurance, and credit rating agencies to divest from harmful extraction companies and invest in the cultural survival and self-determination of the world's indigenous peoples. She is also an artist, a spiritualist, a law-trained human rights expert, and an enrolled member of the Dene, the Navajo Nation. For several years, Michelle has worked locally and globally with indigenous peoples on issues such as access to justice, customary law, and human rights. I helped to create the Water Protector Legal Collective, helping facilitate legal infrastructure for indigenous peoples encamped in opposition to the Dakota Access Pipeline. So we're excited to have her join us shortly, and we'll be having a conversation. A song that actually Michelle wrote and made a music video of. We'll play that.
I found myself in the Garden of Eden when I walked beside the river, when I put my head down to the ground. I heard a wondrous sound. The angels, they were all around me. Thunder beams in the sky, and the ancestors, they walked on the water to protect the righteous one. I will stand like a mountain. I'll stand for water is life, and I will stand because I am the mountain. I'll stand for water's life. So much better honey out there. It's what we have to fulfill. And I will stand like a mountain. I'll stand for water is life. And I will stand because I am the mountain. I'll stand for water's life.
welcome to Moccasin Tracks, Michelle Cook.
Hi, how are you?
Really good. How about you?
I'm doing great. I'm much better now. I'm glad that we're able to meet up and have a talk.
Yeah, yeah,
Welcome.
terrific.
Thank you so much.
It's my co-host, Rick Hunt, and behind the scenes is Carolyn Hunt, who's kind of working the board for us today and playing a little music on the CD players. So we kind of operate as a group effort here.
Excellent.
Yeah. The last time I talked to you was, quite a few years ago, but you were really involved in Divest, Invest, Protect, also working with the group, the Water Protector Legal Collective, and really keeping yourself busy. And I know over, time here, you have participated in lots of projects. We really enjoyed hearing Garden of Eden, which is like a totally different kind of thing to talk to you about. Producing a music video. Good for you. The words were just fabulous. Standing like a mountain, water is life. Just really beautiful lyrics. Can you talk first a little bit about your experience making this music video? Because it
Yeah.
was really great.
I think, I've done human rights work, my entire adult life, and I've seen so many different indigenous communities all over the world struggling with so many different issues to protect their land and water, but also just pillars of inspiration and innovation and, the values of leadership and the values of a future, right? That is not based on extraction, that's based on kinship. So, I've spent many years, really kind of in this defensive posture of, using my education and resources to protect Indigenous peoples and advocate about human rights issues. But, I think the human rights conversation needs to expand so that we can have that discourse and conversation with more people. And I think, music has always been a means and method of liberation for Indigenous peoples and for non-Indian people like folks in Appalachia, right? These songs have memorialized and contained, right, the human spirit to fight against oppression. And so I think it's a powerful tool for artists and for people to use to try to educate ourselves and to empower ourselves, as women, as LGBTQI2 peoples, that, we all have sovereignty and divinity in this world and a right to live, a right to be happy, a right to have joy and bliss, that's our divine inheritance. And, we stand, like a mountain because we are the mountain, like Bruce Lee says, become like water. Right. We are water. We are the mountains. We are, this beautiful earth. And, the more we can kind of relate to that relationship and center that sacredness, the healthier I think we become as individuals and as a collective society. So, this, work and this path into music and into chanting and into music and into the spiritual kind of wisdom tradition is really where I want to spend more time and focus for my life.
Oh, that's beautiful. And I hope you do, because it's really wonderful to see how you mix it up, because the filming of it was in different places. So this was like a big project. Did you first dream about it, or how did it all get put together?
Well, in my human rights work, I've done a lot of field visits to different locations where there's, controversial projects or allegations of human rights abuses or environmental disregard. And so I was visiting one of the tree sits that was occurring in the Mountain Valley Pipeline. So I went all the way up Peters Mountain to visit one of these human rights defenders who was sitting in one of these monopods in the path of the pipeline. So I'd gone up there with medicine that I had from Standing Rock, which was a previous front line that I had engaged in. And I took medicine up there to pray with. And as I was coming off of the mountain, after I finished that small prayer, the mountain, all I can say is that it began to vibrate. I could hear a melody and a song, right, as if it was just downloaded into my mind. And so as I walked down the ridge of the mountain, I just kept repeating that song. And that was in 2018. And so I held on to that song for years. And then, sometime last year, about this time last year, I really said, I need to do something with that song. I feel like it was a gift, and here I'm just sitting on it, and, there's still this problem with this pipeline, and, it's either sing it or don't. And so I spent, 2022 and part of 2023 recording the song. It was recorded in Maine. My vocals were recorded in Maine along with backup vocal, my friend Michael Paul Hill. Then my other friend, Marcus Briggs Cloud, who's a Muskogee linguist, he recorded his in Alabama. And then Marka Cassidy, who's Osage, she recorded hers in Oklahoma. And so we were able to send all of those recordings to our friend Andrew in Maine, who was able to mix and record and put it together. And then I did some additional backup vocals in New Mexico. So the whole project was created remotely over a couple years. And it includes, an endangered language, right? Mm-hmm. So the Muskogee language is an endangered language. It's a language that needs a lot more investment and a lot more care. So I'm thankful that, Marcus was able to contribute that treasure to this song, and that that we're able in some way to support the transmission and continuance of an indigenous language through this, that art form of making the music video.
Mm-hmm. 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 The music was really powerful in the background. That kind of dark, and I don't mean that in a bad way, like the music kind of was reminiscent of Daniel Lanois, the producer. I really liked that a lot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we had really excellent players. Catherine Altizer, she was recently at Colby College in Maine, and she is an incredible musician, and she was able to add the piano onto that track. Mm-hmm. And Andrew Slater was the producer and mixer, and he was also able to really, through our collaboration and our conversation, really capture the mood and the melody that was, transmitted from the mountain.
Yeah, yeah. Well, your costuming too in the video itself. Where did that come from? And can you tell us a little bit more about it? The silvery, dress that you wore, gown, really.
Yeah, this was my first time making a music video, so I feel like Patsy Cline and Loretta Lynn. We just make it work, so, the silver material was donated from somewhere. I think I got 2 of the other yards of fabric from a little antique thrift store here. Mm-hmm. It turns out where I got it from down the street, I ended up meeting Loretta Lynn's cousin when I picked up that material. So, I got a lot of those pieces from little secondhand shops, bargain shops here in Tazewell and in Appalachia. And then the eagle feathers were gifted to me over the course of that year too. So I had so many feathers gifted to me that I was really thinking of how to use them and how to display them. And then when I was thinking about the concept of the video and about really trying to represent these animals that are very sacred to Appalachia, the rainbow trout, and then also the hawk and the eagle. How can we create costumes that allow the viewer and the artist to kind of shift into some of those presences? And so that was really fun, and I had a really great time working on those costumes and developing that choreography in the river and with some of those animals.
Oh yeah, that it looked like you were enjoying it, and it was really beautiful. All that scenery. Well, I hope you continue to work on, your music. Do you have some lyrics and poetry or writings that you're saving up for music?
Yeah, I have a couple things that are in production, so to speak. But I'm not, I don't come at it necessarily from the music business angle. So, it's more just, every piece is its kind of own art piece. And so, it might go at a slower pace, but I think it will produce the type of work and the quality that I'm really hoping to contribute to the art conversation in Appalachia and in Indian country.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it kind of overlaps with everything else that you're doing. It just adds a whole nother layer of doing this art and doing the music, because you have traveled internationally, really bringing these issues forward with the Divest, Invest, Protect organization. And I was wondering, could we talk about that a little bit, and maybe you could give us some updates on what's current?
Right. Well, we are still very much, involved in divestment work and human rights documentation and the support of Indigenous peoples. Right now, I think we have really kind of, taken time to just work on the internal needs of any organization. So our website is updated, our social media is updated, all of our archive online is updated. And so that's really what I've been focusing on recently, is just making sure that all of the work that we've done over the years is actually in one place where people can keep up with it. And right now, we were involved in a delegation to UBS regarding, human rights allegations with companies and projects in Appalachia. And so working with human rights defenders and talking with grassroots people on the ground and making sure that they have spaces where they can engage with institutions and investors is still very much part of our core work. But, we're also, going to be doing a couple projects, I think this next year, hopefully investing in a sewing center in India for women and girls, and the construction of a small school for women and girls in India, and also investing in the preservation of Indigenous wisdom traditions in New Mexico. So there's a lot of great things coming up for us. And of course, always honored by the Indigenous peoples who we work with and the human rights defenders who are, protecting land and water for all of us.
Yeah, that's so important. And, you also consider yourself a spiritualist, and it's another layer of the beautiful stuff that you work on. And I was wondering if you might want to share anything that really inspires you to keep working on these issues, because I'm sure working in the human rights is very challenging and can be, it can really use up your energy. So I'm always curious how people keep moving forward in a good way. And I don't know if you might want to share a little bit about what keeps you inspired and keeps you going in a good way.
Well, I think, Stand Like a Mountain is really about, and a response to being knocked down. I think all of us in our journeys of life, right? We experience different setbacks or different losses, right? And we have to, constantly, like that garden, be watering ourselves and taking care of ourselves and our minds and our bodies. To remind ourselves, that we got to stand back up, right? That we have to find strength, within ourselves, but also outside of ourselves too, and faith and, communication with the divine is available to all people, right? Is available to all people. And I really think that when we ask for help and when we ask for that divine relationship, to come into our lives and to be healed in a way that we can create that on a quantum level, right? And so, I've seen a lot of what I believe my prayers and my faith come true. And I believe, as long as we are acting in a true heart and a pure word, that, the spirits and our ancestors and creator, whatever language you want to use in your own language to define that heavenly divine resource is always available to us when we're suffering. And I think, throughout my life, I've really had to lean in and on that spiritual intervention to pull me through a lot of different types of oppression or different types of things that I've needed to work through. And I think, most recently, what I've really been trying to adopt is, a breath practice of just breathing with prayer beads. And I don't think that we slow down enough always to make sure we're breathing, which seems really simple, and to make sure we're drinking enough water. And so, there's a lot of things that I'm kind of practicing, but on a very basic level right now, I'm trying to just find routine in the basics. And I feel like as I calm my mind and develop those practices of meditation, that it helps every aspect of my life. And so I'm just being more disciplined about that. I feel like I've always, had a lot of spiritual experiences and a lot of spiritual things happen just organically. But I think now at the point in my life, I'm very much focused and intentional now on creating the conditions in my life so that I can receive as much of that source and that knowledge and wisdom as possible without getting in my own way. And so that's been a fun process. And I think too, what I've had to do is really let go of a lot of negative things and a lot of places and things that just were not serving me for different reasons. And so I've had to really let go, unclutch, not cling, let go, and have faith in what is the all powerful creative universe, that I will be okay, and that there is no reason to fear. And so I think that all of us human beings can find peace through our meditation, through our prayer, and through a relationship with the divine. And that's really where I feel like and where I hope that the rest of my life here on earth will be dedicated towards the devotion of creation, the devotion of the land and the earth, and to heal, and to, as much as we can, to really heal and restore the Garden of Eden, to restore a heaven on earth through our song, through our intention, through our prayer. I was just recently made aware of this one individual in India who's been restoring rivers, and he was able to restore a river in Rajasthan that reduced the temperature in the area by 2 degrees Celsius. So that's a clear example of someone who believed in themselves, and someone who's saying, I'm going to heal the water, I'm going to clean up the water, and did something that is absolutely miraculous. So I believe that there is healing and restoration for every single problem that is here on earth if we slow down enough to create the conditions for us to approach it in a good way. And those are the kinds of people who I now want to spend time learning from. I want to talk to change makers like that and ask them, how did you do this? How are you, creating these changes? And really that's where I feel like humanity is going to get the most advancements is by following and finding these people who are really figuring these things out and learning from them.
Good words. Thank you so much, Michelle, for what you just said, because I feel like that's really important to know that communication with divine is available to all, and, to slow down. Real good words of wisdom from you. Thank you. You've had good teachers. I know you talked about this before, and you've been learning, all along. It seems like, it's a big job to become knowledgeable and to get the degrees and things that you have through the schooling and everything. That's big work. And so I applaud your efforts. I'm really, if I could say, I'm really proud of you. And also when you say you're letting go, it's like, here you are to let go of your, where you are, your roots and things for just a while, to be able to do these projects in India or wherever it is that you go. That also is really important. And it's hard for some people, but you are able to do that, I think, because you have a strong connection to and realize what your intentions and potential and all that is, and work on that. So I see that. Thank you so much for reflecting it for us all.
You definitely are on your path.
Yeah. I guess you've answered my question. I had another question here about like what would be a priority to work on. You kind of answered that. If you have anything more to add along that, kind of thought, we all are working on ourselves and hopefully improving and healing. And, but, how can we set our priorities? How can we make clear intentions and put it to good use?
Yeah, I mean, I've had the luxury of being able to have a really great education, and so I'm thankful, for that skill set. And I think, there's a lot of priorities, coming up. I would say probably the most important one is just really trying to figure out what are the examples of models in the world that are the solutions. Where are the, because we do so much defensive work. We know, we can understand what's bad, right? And we can, very easily identify a bad actor and say stop. But how we create the conditions to heal hypercapitalism, right? How do we create new economies, right? How do we create new jobs for people, right? In the meantime, as we're transitioning from one economy to the other, we really need, engineers, if you will, of new energy, of new infrastructure. And so I think, there has to be a way also to get, science and technology on board to support, what that next shift is going to look like. So that's a priority, but it's also one that I don't have completely answered yet, because I think all of humanity right now is trying to figure out what is the next step, where are we going to go in this next century, and so that's what I'm really interested in, contributing to and learning more about. Who are the people in the world, right, that are doing the healing and the restorative work, and how do we amplify that and multiply that so that we can create a shift that resonates on the individual and collective level, right? But we need to be very strategic in that. But I think once we look at all of the examples, that's how we're able to kind of create those evaluations.
I love it that you're going out to the examples too, because sometimes that's what you need to see it and experience it. You have always brought along or encourage younger ones to pick up these roles, and can you speak to a younger person, or how do we address the youth, and how do we work together in this way to bring forward the priorities that we need?
I think young people have to be invited into the room, right? Young people have to be invited into the room. They need to be respected and listened to. And the sooner that we can start mentoring and inviting young people into these conversations, right? Even if some conversations are just, an observer role at that initial stage, right? We have to cultivate these young leaders by including them, right, in all of the different types of conversations in the way that is that we can facilitate their growth and their diplomacy. I was very lucky to be included in some very, powerful conversations as a young person. And I was able to watch, my elders like Ophelia Rivas, who is a Tohono O'odham elder on the U.S. now so-called U.S.-Mexico border, negotiate a lot of very difficult situations in her human rights journey. And just observing her, right? Observing my elders and how they were able to conduct themselves in those decision-making arenas was incredibly formative, right? In what I do as an advocate. So I think the earlier that we can intervene and include Indigenous peoples and youth in these spaces and conversations, the more equipped they're going to be able to be the decision makers of the future when it is time to make those decisions. So, and some people, right, some youth may be, more predisposed to some of those spaces. So it's also finding those young people who carry those skill sets and developing that talent. But it's definitely an investment that we all have to make is within the young people.
Yeah, thank you for that. I just need to say, because we are on radio, you are listening to WZNC LP Bethlehem. This is North Country Community Radio. And our guest today is Michelle Cook. She's from the Dene Nation, and she's been talking to us a lot about the organization Divest, Invest, Protect, and just sharing some wonderful thoughts. We're going to need to probably close out soon. So is there anything else that you'd like our listeners to take away from this conversation today, Michelle?
Well, I definitely am thankful to be here. Folks can learn more at, divestinvestprotect.com and about all of the work that we're doing with Indigenous peoples and land and human rights defense. And I guess, too, to just tell people to continue to pay attention to what's happening at the Mountain Valley Pipeline. We just got word that there was a accident that happened on Saturday at one of the locations where we have been warning people of its danger. And so there was a worker that was evacuated out of that exact area at Peters Mountain, which is where my song was created. And that's an incredibly unfortunate situation. And so we don't know exactly what the outcome of that injury is yet, because the company has declined to comment. Yeah. But of course, this is what we've warned about, and what we here in Appalachia, all of these impacted landowners are trying so hard to avoid is not only the loss of life to workers on a very dangerous route, but also, potential explosions and ruptures and fires towards local communities. So it's a very serious issue. And there's a couple groups that are involved. Protect Our Water Rights and Heritage is one group. Another group that you can learn more about the struggle is Appalachians Against Pipelines. And both of those groups are places where the public can get information about what's happening here in Appalachia. And hopefully we can all do our best to stick together and to stop this pipeline.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, it's truly been an honor to catch up with you and talk with you today here on Community Radio. So thank you for sharing your time and your thoughts, and really appreciate it. And, just thank you, Rick.
Yes, thank you so much. It's been a delight having you on our show.
Thank you all so much. And, just keep doing this great grassroots community work and documentation. And so thankful to be here with you today.
Okay. You be well. Carolyn's going to play a song for us. Take care.
Thank you so much.